Okay, so welcome to here I am again. Welcome to Sterling Scalability, where we'll be talking about marketing trends, updates, or anything that will help you scale your business. My name is Ibiza,
And I'm Susan.
and we are your big sisters for small business or owners. And we believe that you guys deserve the same sharp strategy that Fortune 500 companies pay millions for. So yeah, how is your week so far, Susan?
You know what? It's good. It's been busy, but really productive. Today I'm out beating the streets with one of our clients who's got a local fundraiser happening here near me, and we've been out talking to potential donors and local businesses and meeting lots of people. So it's been good, a good week. How about you?
It's pretty not so busy, but it was fine. So yesterday we went to a mall near my former workplace. It was so nostalgic. It was so fun, and yeah, it's just giving a lot of memories from the past. This was way back in my corporate days here, so it was fun. Yeah.
Nice.
So okay.
Funny
So
enough,
for
you just brought up the malls. In America, a lot of our malls, like the crowds just kind of like it sort of collapsed on itself. So our malls aren't very popular anymore. But interesting.
mm, mm, yeah,
Because
the here in the Philippines, malls is a big thing. We don't have like parks here. People usually crowd in the malls.
yeah, when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time in the malls. So,
Mm,
we've just seen them kind of like go away here in America. I'm not sure why. I
mm,
guess just because I've heard a lot about rowdy teenagers, but who knows?
mm. Interesting. All right. Okay. So for this week, okay, the tonight's title is kind of dramatic, and it's actually even for us, it's very dramatic. So the AI is eating itself. Is it really, or is that a headline doing headline things?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I made this one dramatic. The AI is eating itself. Is it about to implode? And the reason is I've just been taking in a lot of news about AI. As you know, I make it a point to stay really educated on what's happening. And like specifically, even when it came down to, Friday, what triggered tonight's episode was Friday. And we'll get into all of the details here. But honestly, is it eating itself? It's a little bit of both. So there's like
Mm,
four different ways that I see the AI industry feeding on itself right now. Three of them are like big heavies, and then one of them I think is like more Wall Street when you really look at it. And so we're going to walk through all of that. We're going to learn a little about it, and then by the end, you and our listeners should hopefully understand from my perspective everything that's going on with this. And there's a punchline up front so that nobody has to wait for it here, which is in a world where AI is eating its own tail, the most valuable thing that you own is that you are a real human and you make real things. And let's get to that conclusion.
yeah. I mean, we should like be human. We touch grass.
Touch grass. Touch grass, look away from your phone. And like there's an interesting this is not in my show notes, but there's this interesting conversation I keep having with people that even I've introduced to AI where we're talking about AI psychosis and just like, hey, it's going to affirm you. You've got to think about it. Like I say this a lot to people just about like Facebook, Instagram, all of the
Mm,
social media platforms. Their main goal for the end user is TOA, time on app. So the goal is to keep them using you. When,
mm,
it comes down to large language models, I think we talked a little bit about tokening, or maybe we haven't on the show yet. If anybody is curious about that, drop it in the comments. But you're purchasing tokens. So even people with subscriptions, like you're going to run out of tokens and then you either have to wait or you can buy more tokens, and people are buying more tokens because people are impatient. We're used to getting what we want right away. And so, the goal of these models a lot of times is to keep you using
mm,
them. And so, as you see it, you can kind of fall into that psychosis. So when I talk about touching grass, I mean, remember, AI is not a person. It's not your therapist, and
mm.
check
Yeah.
your bias. So anyway, we can start talking here about the news from Friday. or the news that I read on Friday,
Uh-huh.
which is the deal that ate itself. All right, so this Manus and Meta deal, kind of funny, reads like a thriller to me. Back in December, Meta bought a company called Manus. This is an AI. It was an AI startup called Manus. They bought it for around I think it was $2 billion, $2 billion around that. And so Manus described itself as an execution layer. So this is the layer that sits on top of it sits on top of like the AI, the large language models, and then essentially like turns them into software that does work. So when you think about it, like large language models are just waiting. They're not like implementing the work. Some of them do. There's Claude Cowork and things like that now. But so that's what this was purported to be. And, you know, you and I talked about it because it came out and I said, ugh, now I got to learn this and figure this out for ads, because for a while there, Facebook really wanted us to use Manus for ads. So moving on back into the news here. The catch is where Manus came from. So it was founded in Wuhan back in 2022, and then it relocated its headquarters to Singapore around like 2025, mid 2025. So in doing that, a lot of Chinese startups kind of started making those moves, like where they wanted to look more international, and they also wanted to dodge like scrutiny from Beijing, because obviously there's some there, and Washington as well. So it's sort of the migration sort of reminded me of, if any of you guys will remember, back when the coaching industry, coaches, businesses, even tech businesses, kind of like tried to flee the West Coast. They were running away from California. You'll remember this. We had many conversations about this at the time. We were working for a company that was looking to. They were considering moving to Texas, and we saw a lot of coaching people move to Texas, and then later that year they ended up getting snowed on. Do you remember this? Don't forget you're
Yeah, yeah,
muted.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so it was like they were like, we don't want to pay these taxes in California anymore, even though they had such minimal taxes. And like the new tax, it really wasn't that terrible. Like, to be honest with you, it really wasn't that bad. And then what ended up happening with that was that, they obviously, people fled. They went to Texas, they went to Puerto Rico, wherever, looking for these tax haven deals. And then what ended up happening was like tax lawsuits, the snowstorm in Texas that ruined a bunch of people's lives there. Sorry, I do like to pick on Texas because it has its own infrastructure for power here, and not to say that it's bad to like live off the grid, but you get what you get when you want to run away from spending money. Then you're spending even more money because now you're losing money. And then of course they've uprooted their whole lives just to move somewhere else to avoid paying a couple of dollars. So it's not quite the same thing here, but it is what it reminded me of when I was reading about it. So anyway. Beijing, not amused. They were not happy about it. And so in April, China, their National Development and Reform Commission, blocked the acquisition. So even though Facebook had already purchased it and things were moving, it ordered both sides to undo the deal. Crazy, because that's the first time that China has used like foreign investment security review to reverse like this a cross-border AI deal. Everything is happening for the first time now, so it's a little crazy. So now they've kind of like set a principle here, and this is what I'm really paying attention to, which is like the origin over the domicile. So moving offshore does not protect China originated technology from Chinese jurisdiction. So, moving to Singapore and having a Singapore address did not save them from that deal falling apart.
Oh, interesting. So, what happened now?
So now it's being taken apart piece by piece. The news on Friday was Friday's when I read this. I think it's when the news came out, but as of last week, Meta has now finished separating from Manus. They basically locked all of the Manus staff out of their internal systems, and they sent a memo saying that Meta is sunsetting the platform. The founders are trying to raise. I think they were trying to raise about $1 billion to like buy the company back. So $2 billion deal. They're looking for another billion to buy it back. 6 months, done. And then tying this into the AI collapse theme for tonight. So this is really funny, Ibiza. So Manus, and this is not this this is reported. I can't say that it's confirmed, but but it's reported that Manus was run largely on Claude. Whomp whomp.
Really?
So yeah, yes. So like it's Anthropic's model, and this is where I say like AI is eating itself, because when I read this, I was like, oh
My
my
gosh.
lord. Like, so you have Manus, which is like this company that Facebook bought for $2 billion when they could have just like maybe partnered with Anthropic and figured that the hell out. But what did they do instead? No. They wanted to buy something cheaper. They did. But it's, and again, not, I'm, you know, I'm not 100% on this one, but definitely what I learned was that it's reported that it's running largely on Claude. And so you have you have a Chinese founded company building a product on American AI, and then it's getting bought by an American company, Meta, and then pulled back by the Chinese government, and now AI legitimately has ate itself. And I think it's hilarious. Everyone's built on everyone. The whole thing is sitting on top of like all of these geopolitics, and nobody controls anything, and like we don't have a playbook for this.
It's interesting. I think I read that Claude just had two of its newest models shut off by the US government. So can you share something more? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, and so yeah, absolutely. And again, funny because Claude's got its own challenges, right? So it is true. Anthropic had to pull some models, 2 models last week, and I did something funny. Instead of giving the notes for this part, I actually went to the source, and I decided that the right thing to do was to ask Claude what happened to it. So, since Claude has this story firsthand, here's what Claude said. I don't know if I have a funny enough voice for this right now. So I'm Claude, made by Anthropic, and yes, 2 of my newer siblings got pulled. Here's what's public and accurate as of today. On June 9th, Anthropic launched 2 models, Fable 5 for the public and Mythos 5 for a small set of vetted cybersecurity partners. On June 12th at 5:21 p.m. Eastern, the U.S. Commerce Department ordered Anthropic to suspend access to both for any foreign national anywhere in the world, including Anthropic's own foreign national employees. Because there's no way to check nationality in real time, Anthropic shut both models off for everyone, worldwide, within hours. All the other models, the ones in front of you right now, were not affected. Anthropic is complying, but publicly disagrees and says its understanding is that the concern was a narrow jailbreak, essentially asking the model to read a codebase and fix software flaws. Anthropic argues other public models, including OpenAI's GPT 5.5, can already do the same thing. Senior staff met with the administration this week trying to resolve it, and there's no restoration date yet. I'd flag, Susan, that this is moving day by day. So check it again right before you go live. I did not check it again right before I went live. That was my Claude voice. I hope you all enjoyed my computer. So thank you, Claude. I appreciate you for that. Funny, I'm eating myself now. Speaking for Claude. So, so from me, this is the first time that the U.S. government has applied like these export controls to an AI model itself. Not the chips. So it's like they're not trying to control the chip. It's like the model itself. And that's the thing that runs your tools is now like, if you're using Cowork or, one of these AI tools, I don't want to pick on Claude. That's just, the one that was in front of me because for this, but like you're using these AI tools and the government can literally switch that off. What if you've built your whole company's and there are people who you built your whole company's foundation on these models. And now what we've seen is that within a moment, they can make it so that it can just shut off. So for a small business owner, for you listening, the lesson is do not build your entire operation on a single model. Don't do it. Like that's your whole business shut off with no control. You will have no recourse. Have a backup. Keep your processes in your own head, documented on your own SOPs. Do not only use a tool to do this. maintain some kind of um, connection to what your business needs to do and make sure you still know how to do it, or that you have access to someone who could quickly come in and do it for you.
Mm-hmm. It's really important to have a documented SOPs in place in any
Yeah.
business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the things that people are offboarding, sorry, I know I'm jumping off of our notes again, but the things that people are offboarding, even, I talked to a couple business owners last week where they're like, oh, I'm just dumping my finances into Claude, and they're doing everything for me, or I'm building dashboards, and people are selling this too. So that's another piece as well. I do use AI. I'm not gonna
Mm.
again, I use AI. I use it to help me pull data. I use it to help me build some spreadsheets. I absolutely. The thing is that I know how to manually get all of those numbers. So I'm not
Mm.
like relying on it to be the only thing getting my numbers. And yes, I am using it to grab those. But if that went
Mm-hmm.
away tomorrow, I could very easily go in for all of my clients and continue to build their dashboards. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
backup. I have a spreadsheet with all of their, you have to stare at my
Yeah.
spreadsheets. So we have a backup. And, maybe I'm not maintaining my backup, but I could always go back and post date it. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think in this moment, as I sit, one of the things that's heavy on my heart with AI, and I do say heavy on my heart with AI, is that like I know a lot of other agencies, marketing agencies or marketing businesses that have emerged because, a single really smart marketer doesn't need to afford a whole team now. And I get that. And I support that marketer for building a business. But if you're building that whole business around the fact that you're promising and there's more on this in here, but you're building that whole business around promising your end client deliverables that AI is building for you that you aren't even touching, that you wouldn't even know how to do, or it would be impossible to actually deliver to your clients without AI,
Mm-hmm.
not just copy, not just art. I'm talking data, dashboards, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you sold them. If your end product is run on one of these models, man, you are consider the liabilities. You let them sign a contract. That's all. I'll leave it at that. I am not an
Yeah.
attorney.
Well, yeah. Okay, so people keep saying AI is running out of stuff to learn from, and that when it learns from itself, it gets worse. Is that really true, or is that just a meme?
So, yeah, eating itself literally, right? Um, so there's two things that we'll talk about here, model collapse and then data wall. So we'll start with the data. So I was looking at a report estimating that there's like roughly 300 trillion tokens of useful human written public text, and that AI will fully use this up somewhere between 2026 and 2032. And I know 2032 probably feels far away. To me, it doesn't. I don't. So the date that it like was leaning into is 2028 is the date that we were going to hear most often. So that date is the data wall. And so what it seems like is that we can kind of see the edge of it from here. So the data wall, the data wall basically is like that's the end of what it's going to be able to consume. Um, and of course, because we have, and it's still a small percentage of people using AI, but the thing is, it's the creators and the generators of content who seem to be using it the most or more than other people around. And so the big term um, here becomes model collapse. So, you have all these creators, they're going to hit that data wall. They're not creating anymore. Now they're using AI to create. So now AI is ingesting AI to create because when it's searching on the internet or when it's pulling information from things, it's obviously pulling things that are also helped for or generated by AI. And so now the big term, that model collapse term, that's what happens when the models are beginning to get trained on content that other models produced. So the data wall gets hit, and now we have, not a lot of human content generated on the internet. So now the models are just pulling the information and the content that was been created by other AIs. It's freaking crazy. And so the quality of it will slowly degrade. So think about this like this. And I love Nine Inch Nails, so it's just like in my head ever since I started researching this last week. It's like there's a song called "Copy of a Copy," and it just plays in my head. I'm sure that it's too copyrighted and I can't sing it, but that's what I'm hearing in my head right now. And I love you, Trent Reznor. Anyway, He's got a wife. I can't win. But but it's like photocopying a photocopy. So every copy that you
Mm.
make kind of degenerates a little bit. It doesn't matter how good your copying machine is. It doesn't matter how fresh that first photo is. If you make 6,000 copies of it, it doesn't look like the thing that you copied. So it does slowly degrade, and that's how I would explain it that way. And the reason that that really does matter now is that a large and growing share of the text that's online, the content that's online in 2026 is AI generated, which is, we've talked about it. We talked about Google wanting to limit this. We've talked about, these companies wanting to do it. But even right now it's already
Mm.
happening where they're quietly eating their own outputs. And that is literally AI eating itself, is it not?
Mm. So is everything gonna turn into mush right now?
So I think AI and advocates of AI would say no and tell you that people are still generating human content and that it'll stabilize. And in a way, you and I are combating our fear of, this copy of a copy stuff. That's why we started this podcast, right? I mean,
Mm.
really, that's what we talked about. We need to generate human content. I hate this. I say that every week. I love helping people. I hate, you know, I
Mm.
like to be behind the scenes, but we're in front of it because these conversations that you and I are having are real. These notes that I write for our show are coming
Yeah.
from my brain, not from a large language model. Well, except for the part today that literally came from a large language model. So I guess I'm a liar. I let
Yeah.
Claude explain itself today. But, what I'm still skeptical. I'm an AI skeptic. I think that it's useful. I think that it could be it should be a productivity tool. And when I say that, I think about things like automations on emails and welcome, sequences, email sequences and things like that. Like those, if not, then yes. If so, then no. You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff. I see AI being more helpful that way. I don't think that it should be generating content or art. And when I'm using AI for my writing, and I'll talk about this again later, like I'm
Yeah.
using it to edit myself. So think about how we used to use spell check when we actually all used Word. That's how I, see it being like a super powered tool for that. Builds great spreadsheets, makes great slide decks. But what you should
Mm.
be putting into it is like your output. Anyway, I'm already tangenting here. So I am skeptical. What I did read was I found a study. I found one study that said that like even a single real human data point can prevent collapse. Um, I don't think so. I mean, I don't feel that way about it. I mean, if you have one piece of human content, I'm trying not to in my brain think of it in like zombie world, but like there's one human running and like three different, zombie hordes jumping at it. Like eventually those hordes run out of food. So I don't think that it's enough. I don't think that we're
Mm.
generating enough human content right now for the collapse to not be a thing. Um,
Mm.
but human made content is the ingredient. Like when you think about it, like that's the ingredient we can't fake. We can't get around it. We
Mm.
need it. And so the whole system needs us to keep making real things.
Yeah. And
How
for us to
about you?
do
What are
that,
what are your thoughts? Tell me what
I
you
mean,
think.
for us to do that, we also have to experience life outside it. Because, for example, in the context of being a creative, you have to experience life for you to tell good story, right? So, I mean, AI can't do that. Like, it can potentially do like a story, but not as good as your own story, your unique story that can really resonate with your people. So yeah.
And you should be using AI to buy time to go live your life instead of,
Mm.
using it to
Huh.
tell your story or speak for you. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so AI learned from a lot of work that wasn't its to take. So the lawsuits are catching up. What's the bill gonna be like?
So I love this one. And I will say I'm not an attorney. I was doing some research on some legal cases that have happened. And so that's what my notes here are from. But what I was seeing is it's looking like a bill like $1.5 billion right now in lawsuits is what I think I was able to track. So there's a case I read about Bart's, which is a group of authors, and they sued Anthropic for copying their books. A judge did rule that like training on books can be fair use, but if you're giving someone the full book and allowing it to be downloaded, and then you're storing those pirated copies, that's not. And that case settled for $1.5 billion. So that works out to be like, I don't know, $3,000 per book, roughly, like 482,000 pieces of work. So that's, I mean, this is the largest copyright recovery in US history. And part of the deal with it was that Anthropic had to destroy the pirated data set. And it's not just that company. So it's not just one company, but there are actually now, what I found was there's more than 70 AI copyright lawsuits. And this includes the OpenAI cases in New York alone. That bundles like 16 separate suits that include the New York Times. In that case, like the Times, a court ordered to OpenAI to hand over their 20 million ChatGPT conversation logs. 20 million conversation logs.
Oh my gosh.
And music publishers as well have filed a $3.1 billion suit against Anthropic back in January. So it's still in progress.
Mm. So what does a business owner do with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. My suggestion is two things. Number one, the era of like free training data is closing. So that's why models are getting more expensive to build and run. You know, you're going to see your premiums, your subscription prices are going to go up. Small businesses are usually operating on the subscriptions, not just buying tokens. So it's going to get more expensive. That's something to take away. And then the second thing, which is maybe more useful, is when you and this is the part where I'm getting back to this. When you use AI for client work, you are responsible for what comes out of it. So if you're using AI to create a logo or to write copy or to do anything, if you're using AI to do things to deliver deliverables to your clients, it gives you a paragraph, a logo, an image, something that's too close to someone else's real work. The lawsuit will not land on the AI company, and it's not going to land on your customer either. If it does, your client is going to sue you. It's going to be your fault. So,
Mm.
like, you got to write a draft. You can use the AI for the edits, but you better put your own judgment on those final drafts before you deliver them. And for me, of course, I am thinking of this in terms of marketing. I'm also thinking of this in terms of copywriting. I'm also thinking of this in terms of
Mm-mm.
graphic designers. I am also thinking of this in terms of anyone who's creating outputs that
Mm.
they then deliver to customers, because any of that stuff that's too close, coming right back to you. So
Yeah.
it's going to get expensive, and don't get sued.
Yeah. So we really have to be careful of using AI.
You've got to be
Yeah.
really mindful about it. It shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
like, first of all, if you're promising a customer that you're delivering, and this is happening to me too. Like, I've been vetting for one of our clients. I am primarily
Mm-hmm.
a consultant for them, and I handle some of their ops. So I don't actually do their social media. I don't actually do their graphics and stuff. And so, in vetting the agencies that they wanted to hire, it's like I have to have these conversations with agencies and say, how much of your work is AI? And then I added into the contract, like, you can't use X, if you generate content from me and I run it through a test and it fails at X% is written by AI, then that's not a completed work. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I think for small business owners, like, be careful, be mindful of it, ask the questions. And for, my fellow marketers, do better, man. Do not deliver Claude written everything. Do not deliver AI generated images to everybody, because there's
Mm-hmm.
backlash right now. It's not just the
Yeah.
exhaustion that people have with it. So, yeah, sorry, I rambled.
No, I like it. All right, so this is the one our audience can act on tonight. So the platforms are labeling AI content now. So what's actually happening? I like it though, because then you would know what are real and what are AI generated. Okay,
Yeah, and
smart.
I said we were just talking about LinkedIn the other day, where I
Yeah,
found,
yeah.
I saw the note. So yeah, the big platforms now, they're done. They're done asking nicely. Um, it's 2026. Now we've moved from please disclose to we will detect AI, and whether you disclose it or not, we are
Uh-huh.
going to tell the audience that it is
Uh,
AI. So
uh,
Meta is now scanning for AI signals. So it's going to slap it on ads. It's going to slap it on graphics. I've seen it multiple times now. You can just kind of see um, that little notification. And so specifically on like Facebook. So on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, WhatsApps, on organic posts as well. So this is not, I'm used to this being like stuff like this being limited to ads, but it's not limited just to ads. This is now like going out. This is going on organic content as well. So just to be clear here, just because you're like, I don't run ads, this doesn't, yes, it does. This time it does. Um, so even TikTok is scanning, metadata and analyzing frames that have telltale AI artifacts. Like it's just like you can. I am pattern recognition is my thing, and I was explaining this at lunch today with our client, and I said there's a cadence that I can hear when I'm reading something that's AI, and it's like when I read it, it's like da 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 da. So it's not X, it's Y. That's not a character flaw. That's not a character flaw, period.
it's a
That's a benefit.
superpower.
Yeah, that's a superpower.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da,
Mhm.
da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. So it's like these AI models write in a cadence, and that's usually when I can hear that. And I know that I don't know how to explain it any other way other than to say, like, when I read these things, I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. I know that's AI. It's just not the way that we've read. It's not the way that people speak. And there may be some loose cases where people write like that, but like it's just so telling. And this is more than like that. And then anything that's like, it's not X, it's Y. That's not just that's a da 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 da. I hate it. Anyway, okay, sorry. Back to the notes. So you've got Meta labeling everything. You've got TikTok scanning for AI artifacts. You've got YouTube applying AI labels. You've got LinkedIn. LinkedIn is adding the CR attribution to images made by AI. And on top of that, like depending on who you're using for your security on your computer, and if you're not using security on your computer, use it. Maybe I'll put, like I'm using McAfee, Norton, whatever. On YouTube, if you're watching YouTube and you have these, sometimes like my thing will just pop up and say deep fake because McAfee has detected AI. And so it wants me to know that like there's a problem with it. And so it's just, it's again, and I think I talked about this in a past episode. It's like back in, the early days of bloggers, we had to disclose when we were advertising something. So if we were compensated or we received it for free, we had to disclose that like, hey, this is a paid ad. And I know, I've complained about that like going by the wayside, but this kind of this feels similar to that to me. So it's like a pattern repeating now. But what I think is really interesting about it is that like they're not asking, they're not like just declaring punishments. They're just saying like, we are going to tell the audience that this is AI. And so, I don't know if there'll probably eventually be some kind of dispute process, I would suspect for that. But, at this time, there's not. And then, it's like, how would they know? So what happened is that the industry has, there's an industry standard. It's called C2PA. And
Mhm.
basically this is like a tamper evident tag that records what tool has made a file and whether AI was involved. So it's like internet plagiarism. Like if you, but
Hmm.
Adobe, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, and obviously a lot of others have adopted it. Google has now watermarked more than 100 billion images and videos with its synth ID system. So this is the tag that's like traveling around with the files, and you can't take it off. Like you
Mhm.
can't quietly get rid of it. It's not your choice to remove.
And the regulators are behind this too.
They are driving it. So we talked about some of those things, those dates that were important, right? We talked about the New York
Mm.
stuff. So the EU AI Act takes effect on August 2nd of this year. We have the California with the AI labeling. California has its own AI labeling law now. Um, EU penalties can reach up to 15 million euros or 3% of your global revenue. And what I want you to write down here, what I want you to write it down, is content filmed by a real creator on a real camera does not trigger AI labels on TikTok, Meta, or YouTube. So your face, your voice, your shop, your hands, you doing the work, you doing this, that content sails through clean, but the synthetic stuff is going to get the stamp. So the platforms are handing real human beings an advantage, and the law is behind it. The New York law is basically like if you're using fake people, AI people. Actually, at lunch today too, I'm sitting there and I was talking about this because obviously preparing for our show tonight, bullshitting with my friends about AI. And I'm like talking about AI people, and then some golf channel was on because I live near a place that's all golf. And it was AI. They were AI people. And the first thing that popped into my head was, and I said it out loud because, I can't help myself. I was like, oh man, this is an ad. I hope they're not showing it in New York. And then, they're like, why? And I'm like, because it's like illegal to use people. Like you can't do it, without disclosing. And it's like, there's no AI label on that ad.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
the advantage is ours if we take advantage of it. But it does mean
Mm.
doing the human work.
Mm. Sorry, I'm wondering what it looks like to be an AI police. Like, I think it's a new career
You know
based off
what?
of
I hadn't thought
AI.
about that.
Right? It's so
Like, hey, I'm
cool.
the AI cop. This is AI
Yeah.
slop.
Right? Maybe
Ta-da,
we can
ta-da,
have
ta-da, ta-da, ta-da.
right? We should have like at least a content a week in our socials doing that.
Wee wee wee. Just do one piece of AI content a week and see what
Right?
happens. We should actually,
Yeah.
yeah, do it. We'll
Yeah.
do it.
Okay.
Let's go. You know what? We interviewed Claude for this. I wonder if we put Claude's quote
Oh.
as a caption on a post,
And
will it
what it
get
would look
flagged?
like. Yeah.
Like, what if you actually create, because and disclosing to you, we do Ibiza does our graphics. She's
Uh-huh.
our graphics person. I do the other stuff. She does that. So like if you made a graphic design, but we used the quote from Claude directly, I wonder. Yeah, we're gonna have to experiments. I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll update you guys.
We'll let you guys know, or
Uh-huh.
just follow us on socials and then you'll see for yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So now the big question in the title, implode. Is it a yes or a no?
I'm going to ask you your opinion on this after we're done because I'm curious to see what you think. So I think it's a reckoning. I am a
Uh,
skeptic. I am a skeptic in that I do think I've worked through so many different bubble bursts. Like I worked in mortgages back in
uh,
2008. For people in America will remember that. I've worked through so many different. I was present, for a lot of the .com era stuff. So like I've seen technology and just other implosions, regulatory implosions. So I do think that like this is a big reckoning on a lot of fronts. And so my brain immediately goes to the money version because it's at the end of the day, this is about money. This is about the resource of money. And so that's usually where like the word implode means something. And I think there's a real worry about circular financing. Um, so this is like NVIDIA invests in OpenAI, then OpenAI spends the money that NVIDIA has invested on NVIDIA chips because it needs those chips. Then Microsoft owns a chunk of OpenAI, and then it's selling it its cloud, and the same dollars kind of circulate or cycle through all of those. And the spend, it's like basically like it's circling through like a handful of companies that inflates everyone's numbers, or it feels like it's inflating everyone's numbers. And now the big tech players are on track to spend somewhere around like $725 billion. I can't even believe I'm using the word $1 billion. I think it's insane. But they're going to spend 200 or $725 billion on AI infrastructure this year. And so then, there was an MIT report that found that around 95% of corporate AI pilots delivered no measurable financial return. So that is a frightening gap. I mean, I worked in finance for years. So you're
Mm.
talking about no ROI, no return on investment. They're spending money that does not turn into profit. Our little $20 subscriptions are not paying for this. And yes, of course, we just recently heard the news about the one company that didn't have a limit to its tokens and it spent a whole bunch of money. But those are the exceptions, not the rules. And I know that some companies are spending big money, but they're spending big money with each other because the little guys, the people listening to our show, me, I don't have the money to compete in this. I wouldn't have the money to buy a bunch of of additional tokens and run a whole business on AI. I
Yeah.
don't want to, but I also wouldn't have it. So when you think
Mhm.
about it, 95% of corporate AI pilots are not profitable. They're not returning. There's no
Mm.
financial return. So that's, to me, that's the implosion part. That's the bubble burst.
Mhm. It sounds like a yes to me.
I mean, in a way. So I'm a strategist. As a strategist, I like to think about all sides. And so there's,
Mhm.
we've got that side and then there's the other side. So the one thing I will say is that, like I said, I've seen a lot of crashes or implosions or bubble bursts, or I feel like we change the name of it every time, especially here in America, because we're uncomfortable with failure. So I've seen a lot of things fail in big ways, just because I've been alive long enough to see it and curious enough to learn about it every time. So back in the .com, this is different than the .com era. These companies are actually making real money. So Nvidia, Microsoft, Alphabet, together, those companies actually profit. They profit overall. They make $200 billion in profit annually. And so and enterprise AI spending has tripled in a single year. So when these companies are spending big money on AI, and they don't see the return on it, investors will punish that stock pretty fast. So unlike when it was the .com crash, where people threw money at anything that had a website because the websites are brand new, and they ask questions later, these companies these companies that are just slapping the AI pitch on their deck, like they're AI first, we're AI first, but they have nothing underneath of that claim. Or the companies that are using AI tech as white label, they're building a they're selling their model that's built on another model, which is the caution that I gave you earlier, because that model can be shut off with a push of a button that isn't even controlled by the company that you're building your model on. So I do think that those are going to end up those companies are going to implode. But the big companies, they are making a profit. It's just not an AI profit. Um, and what I think too, my prediction here is that we're going to see a lot of heavy competition, in the AI space. And the ones with the investments, the ones who have invested in the right teams or have the financial resources, they're going to win. And the hype will end. AI tools and their mechanisms, and this is again my opinion, my view of the future here. The hype will end. The tools, the mechanisms, they're all going to stick around, and I do think AI will become a tool of function, and eventually not. I don't think it'll be so much design or writing, because based off of the legislation that I'm seeing happen, I really think that. Even though I think Claude just released a new design tool, I really do think that that piece is probably going to soften quite a bit, because we're going to end up seeing a lot more litigation. And I think that people will want to avoid it. And so, I'll continue to use my AI to read the 17 calendars and the 16 emails that I have and help me put together my day and organize my data and, kind of do that stuff. But I don't we aren't gonna write our captions with AI, and we are and I think that's that. So, will it implode? Pieces? Yeah, for sure. Do I think that it's an unprofitable industry? I think there's so much competition, and there are so many people building models on their little $20, what do they call it? Vibe coding? Is
Yeah,
that
I think that is called, yeah, that is
yeah,
called
so
that,
I think that
vibe
the
coding.
vibe coding kind of piece of this,
Mm.
that is going to have a big fat ugly implosion. This is a hard topic to discuss and to understand. It's hard for me to learn it, and I'm trying to make sure that I am articulating this well to our audience, to you, Ibiza, and to you, our audience, because it's kind of a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of money wrapped into this. So when I think about, if I'm just speaking plain English, will this implode? Yes, in parts.
Yes.
Um, I think that financially right now, the implode part to me signals finance. It signals stock market crashing. It signals, the bubble bursting. And for me, that always is money. And I think that the big companies that own AI, that own it, that are the source of it, Anthropics, Perplexities, ChatGPT, the Open AIs, and Google. I do think that like they are stable enough and have a multitude of products that are probably going to save them from, evaporating on an implosion.
Mm.
But I think that because there's so much of again, and I don't, like the vibe coding or the agencies who are building their AI deliverables, their AI, these like I don't know what else to call them other than like white labeled AI products, but really it's just Manus running on Claude, which is, I'm not saying that that is true. I don't know if that is factually true, but that's what I've heard. So like those kind of things, that's going to keep happening, and it's going to be expensive, and there are going to be a lot of pieces of AI that implode. And I also think that regulation is coming. I think that right now it's highly unregulated, even though there's billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, spearing up to run into lawsuits. But as that continues to happen, people are going to pull back from the use cases of AI. So I think that there will be an implosion in a way. And I think that we will see a lot less of those ugly ass posters. I think we'll see we'll read a lot less of the stupid AI captions, because I think that eventually all of these platforms that we're working with, and if you want me to just be straight, I think that the big guys with the big money are going to go after the smaller AI startups and the startups that are built on their white labeled stuff. And I think they're going to suppress the shit out of them. I think that Google is going to suppress the shit out of everything that's running on AI or writing AI. It's already done that. I mean, there are so many companies where, because AI existed to write blog posts, they uploaded 1,000 blog posts to win at SERPs. And now that got, undone this year. So there's so many arms to this that I know it's very complicated. And the simplest thing I can say is that a lot of pieces of this are going to implode, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Does that make a little more sense? Because I know this is a really tough topic.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really like even put the right words. I mean, I'm afraid to say it, like, because I might say the wrong thing. But yeah, I agree. And to me, as like, so doing social media, doing graphics, I'm just tired of seeing AI generated photos.
Because they're trash. Like I know, and everybody's like, AI is getting so good at this. And then I have to see how busy this shit is.
Yeah.
Or what's with that weird like dirt?
Yeah, like
Dirt.
grainy.
Yeah. I know we complained about that before. We won't go down that road, but I am curious to ask the audience, what do you think? Do you think there's an implosion? Again, I'm sharing my predictions, my opinions based off of my professional experience working with this stuff, but I would love to know what other people are thinking about this. And I think a few months ago, I would have been further away from it imploding, and I would have just been like, well, it's eating itself, so it's just going to become useless. I don't think that's the case, because I don't think it'll become useless, because Google has enough money to pay, Alphabet has enough money to pay a bunch of human beings to write a bunch of real content and train its models. And I think that the companies that have the money to do that are going to save it. I mean, save it. They're going to
Yeah.
keep it running. Anyway, we can jump into the details on this. What questions do you guys have? What are you curious about that you don't feel like researching or that would overwhelm you? I will research it. Drop a comment.
Uh-huh.
You ask us the questions. Email us. Drop it in the comments on the video or wherever this clip lands, because Ibiza's going to make it into content. A real human being's going to make this stuff into content. Tell us what you think about that.
All right. So tell us, what are the do's and don'ts for this AI content?
Yeah. So
Mhm.
we wanted to give some takeaways, and I do want to softly mention something, because Ibiza and I discussed this potentially, and then we did a little research, and we don't feel confident on advising it, but I do think that it's worth at least mentioning here, and it's probably something that I'm going to add. We're about to redo our own website, so I'm going to be adding something to our privacy policy and our terms. We don't heavily use AI. I don't use AI to write. I'm not using AI to create our content on our website. I'm writing that stuff. Um, but if I am using AI to edit, I'm probably going to add something to our privacy policy that states that, like, we do use AI to moderate or monitor our content. Just because I do think that the disclosures are important. And I like it too. I like that now. I mean, again, I'm a pattern recognition person. I know some of these small companies cannot generate some of these graphics that I'm seeing, and I can see that they're AI, because I know that they're too specifically considering design elements, and not in the right way, and not in a way that makes sense to me. So, um, we bounced back and forth about whether or not to advise you guys to add that you use AI to your privacy policies or your terms. I think that eventually we're going to be required to have an AI policy on websites, because we didn't used to have a terms of service, and we didn't used to have a privacy policy on websites, and now we do. So I do think that's coming down the pipeline, and so we wanted to give you guys a good takeaway that we were confident in. So what we did instead is this. My advice to you, my plea to you: use AI as your intern, not your expert. I've said this before in other ways. AI is your implementer, not your strategist. But AI is the intern. It is not the expert. So here are the things that I recommend using AI for. You use it for, I'll say it like this. I say this one softly and with hesitation. You can use AI for first drafts that you are going to fully rewrite. I don't recommend it that way. This is like captions, emails, outlines, rough blog posts, then make it sound like you. My personal recommendation is write the damn thing yourself. Write it yourself, and then have AI edit it. You can write a couple of short paragraphs and say, "Can you expand this?" Give it your brand voice, but, like, originate the content from you first. That's that. So you can do it. You can use it for that stuff. But if you're using, my hesitation is, if your first draft is written by, and we talked about this at lunch today too, that if your first draft is written by AI and you don't change enough of the da 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 da, people like me are going to hear it, and that to me signals that these AI detectors are going to know. So I say that with hesitation, and then I say my true advice to you is write the damn thing yourself first, and then have AI edit it, and then watch and tell it literally to cut AI slop. Next, get unstuck. If you're brainstorming, if you're doing some product research, stuff like that, you need a headline. You want a couple of options for a way to say a hard thing. Definitely jump in your AI and say, "Hey, I'm working on this project. This is the outcome that I need to happen. I have writer's block. I'm just stuck. I'm brainstorming these angles. I'm testing hooks. What are some of the things you recommend?" Take those recommendations, but then obviously edit them, make them sound like you. You should use AI for summarizing and sorting. This is like long documents, customer reviews. Use Gem if you're using Gmail to search your email. Do not don't even jump into the search bar. You can use the Gem to search for these things if you need to. Make sure they're necessary things. I mean, I still care about the environment, so I know that, like, none of us individually are gonna destroy the none of us as individuals are the problem, but the collective kind of is. So use it for things that are important. Long documents. If there's like customer review stuff, you can do that to summarize and sort. Use it to research starting points. I love Notebook LM. I love Notebook LM. It's my favorite AI. And I heavily used Notebook LM to pull a lot of sources for me today. I did not use it to write my copy, but I used it to figure out, to research some of these cases, some of these studies. Um, but don't trust it. So even though I'm using it and I'm asking it for notes, then I'm going into every one of these individual articles. I'm actually reading these individual articles because, and I say this so confidently. AI will lie confidently. It doesn't know. It is not a person. So don't ever trust it as the final word. Always have a source. Always read the source. Um, the boring, repeatable stuff, you can use AI for that. Reformatting basic spreadsheets, coming up with a concept for a design is okay. And then go and make it your own. I think that that's A-okay. And then you should also use AI to ask better questions. What I mean by that is use it to pressure test your own thinking. Before you're making a big decision, think like, here's my plan for X. What are the gaps or the things that I am missing to make this more successful? It can be very good at highlighting those gaps. And I think especially for small business owners, if you're a small team and you don't have a marketing team, or you don't have a CFO, or you don't have a product development team and you have ideas and you're doing stuff, definitely like use it to kind of like work on that stuff. That's a good use for it. Anything you'd add?
No, yeah, no. I mean, these are all good takeaways that people need to know. I mean, especially now, most of the content that I see are heavily done by AI. So these are good points.
Yeah. And the big note here, the big thing here is like, let me get into the don'ts first. So let's do our don'ts list. This is my don'ts list, and this should address most of this.
Hmm.
And this is what I was going to say anyway. So the biggest thing, don't use AI for anything as a final word without your eyes on it. Don't think that you have trained a large language model well enough to mimic you. You haven't. And that goes for these chatbots on websites too. If you are just leaving AI chatbots to answer you, you might be the next Chipotle. Okay? And people are going to log into your help desk and start using your tokens. But again, anything that goes out publicly, anything that is not just internal for you, because you own those mistakes, not the tool. Like, you can't go back to the tool and be mad at AI. It's AI. It says it right there. AI can make mistakes. That's why they added that disclaimer, because they're not going to be responsible for you not proofreading. Do not use AI for your actual voice and your story. The thing the customers buy, the thing that attracts people to your business in most cases is you. And a model can't fake you. It can't be you. You just talked about that earlier, Ibiza. It can't be you. Do not use AI for facts, numbers, names, and quotes. It will make things up with total confidence. I'm saying that again. It will make it up totally confident. AI will lie to you confidently because it doesn't know not to fill in those gaps. And a little side note, if you're ever prompting it and doing research, because I do the same thing with Notebook, if you're ever prompting anything, then you want to make sure that you tell it like cite sources, don't make assumptions. Don't you can tell it not to hallucinate. It's AI hallucination, I think, is what we landed on is like the term for it collectively, but it will hallucinate confidently. So don't use it for facts, numbers, names, and quotes unless you're, go and check it first. That's all. Do not use it for fully synthetic images and video for your brand that's going to go out public. Just don't do it. If it's a real photo of you, that's going to sail right past those AI filters that we just talked about. These are new things. This is developing constantly. Please be careful, because when people, I saw a TikTok, we're going to try to find this guy's name because I was in love with it the other day when I saw it. And it was so funny because I was already researching this and I was like, hell yeah. But like, now you're using AI for everything. Now you're going to have AI labels on it. And us as the consumer, people as the consumer, your customers are going to see that and think, that's the shortcut that you're taking? You're taking these shortcuts on like simple content. What other shortcuts are you taking in your business? Are you feeding my customer? I'm your customer. Are you feeding my information into your AI? Because I don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So careful now, down with these sort of things.
Mhm.
Father Ted, sorry. Now I'm quoting TV shows that I like. All right. Also, this leads me into my next part. Do not use it for client data. It is not data. I know I use data and data interchangeably. I'm sorry, but don't use it. Don't use it for your client's information. Don't put your passwords into it. Don't put your fucking finances into AI. And nothing private. Like a lot of companies, this was something that I was working on a few years back, but and something I advise for people to do is if you have a company and you're using AI, you better have a really solid employee AI policy that bars them from using a lot of your private information into AI. Remember, everything that we put into these chats, every prompt that we add, every artifact that we're adding to them is training the model. And so, if you're a company and you're pushing AI first to your employees, you better have a very clear policy on what is not allowed to be added. Like, Ibiza, we aren't going to add. I'm not going to have a whole AI system. I mean, I just messaged QuickBooks because that's who I often use. I messaged them about like, hey, I want to make sure that like that there's no AI in my bookkeeping. Like I don't. Mm-mm. So don't do it. So my last point here, and the biggest one for me, is do not use AI to replace the human relationship that you have with your customers and your end users. I'm talking about the consult. I'm talking about the follow-up. I'm talking about overcoming objections. I'm talking about the conversation points that convert someone into your brand. And those touch points look like your captions on social media, the email newsletters that you're sending out. That looks like you having conversations and being in conversations, right? It's a one-to-many model. You are the business having a conversation with all of your clients, and that should be human. Even if it doesn't feel human because you're behind a screen when you type that newsletter and when they receive that newsletter, that's a human touch point. Those conversations when you pick up the phone and call, don't just hire an AI bot to like do your sales calls. I know they're all like, fire your salespeople. Don't do it, because what you might be like saving money on your team, but you're losing trust. You're losing trust. And I know that some of these models are great and they have great voices. I will put in here that like, I notice the patterns. I notice the voice structures. I mean, I am tuned into behavior. And I've trained myself very well on that. And so for a lot of us, it's really obvious. And the thing about some people who notice that things are off about your brand, your sales cycle, is that they talk about it. So when you replace the human relationship that you have, when you have a machine writing captions to speak to the audience that's waiting to hear from you, when you have a machine, you have a large language model creating the content that you're building your brand on, guess what? Your brand's going to start losing because it's going to sound just like everybody else. Every one of those ugly posters that we hate, Ibiza, what do they have in common?
What was that? What was the question? Sorry.
Those ugly, the all the flyers that we keep seeing, the AI generated flyers that we keep seeing on designs. Like, what do they have in common?
Those grainy
They all look,
filter.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they all look the same. It's all the same. It's like busy, pop, 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 or pop, 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 pop. It's all
And
the
it's
same.
all sepia, like, the sepia filter,
Yeah,
like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
So you just lose a lot of trust. I just don't. I don't want you to replace that stuff, and not just because of the fact that like someone else can turn it off in a second, but because you have to respect your audience enough to show up for them. And if you can't do that, then you should probably be calling a team that can. And that's where I'm leaving that. Anything
Yeah.
you'd add?
I mean, I just want to say that people doesn't know exactly, like, how apps would give us like the agreement to the terms and conditions of an app, right? We don't realize that this is a bigger thing that we should be checking on, like what are the things that we are getting into when we use this kind of you know apps, right? So right, so maybe what I just wanted to say is we have to really know what we're dealing with, like the AI, the tool that we're using, because we never know the consequences, or like the cost of whenever we're using this.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so that's the show. The AI is eating itself, and in every one of them, the answer comes back to the same thing. Be the real human who makes real work and puts real judgment on top of the machine. The robots are busy plagiarizing each other. So you have the face, you have the voice, and the story that none of them can copy. So use a tool, but stay human, touch the grass. And if you are heavily relying on your AI, on your marketing, on your website, um, please, please be mindful, be careful, because you'll never know what's the cost of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need help recording or showing up online as yourself, you know, a person as yourself, a person with expert knowledge who has done the work. You've made the mistakes. You've learned better ways, and you have a lot of value for other people to know. So people want to know. People need to know, like, and trust you. And if you need help with that, call us. We got you.
All right. So thank
We
you
did.
so much. We did it. All right. We hope to see you next week. Send us a message. Hello at sterlingscalability.com if you have questions.
And we'll see
All
you on
right.
socials, and it'll be
Yeah.
us.
Uh-huh. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Bye. All right. Let me just stop the recording.